For a while when I woke, there was nowhere to go. Only my own stupid zero reflected back to me, a round hole in a square screen. I was speaking all day. I had nothing to say. My head spun, and when it did, cast cold fireworks on wall and ceiling. My head spun, and when it did, it made a light show for my students and my son. My head spun. And when it did, it lit up the room with minus signs, subtractions, negative outcomes. Dr. Darcy's being a little depressed. Sorry. I zoned out, but I made you a poem. Here it is. As round as the O in no. As large as the globe. As studded with zirconium. Here it is. And look, if you spin it, it sets the room alight with meaning. Thank you so much for having me on. That poem and the next poem actually both live in that kind of virtual space where we all got a bit stuck for a while, where physical presence was sort of briefly suspended. And in fact, I think this is maybe only the second time that I've stood in front of a live physical audience since the start of the COVID pandemic, so, you know, for half a decade. It happened that I got long COVID, I was sick for a few years, and I wouldn't have been able to travel, and kind of relatedly developed chronic anxiety, started having panic attacks before poetry readings. It all got very dramatic. So it is very special for me to be in front of you today, and I'm very excited about it. And I'm telling you that. Just telling you that I'm anxious makes me feel a little bit less anxious. So this next poem, it has a joke in it. You guys, those of you who don't speak English may not be familiar with the joke, but some of you may be able to figure out what joke this is. Call me and I'll tell you a joke. A joke with bones in it. And the idea of dancing, but not the dancing itself. My sister's prescription for chronic tantrum, microplots, mewling jag, longest feb, is just that, dance. But our protagonist never does. It's the only joke I remember. I reckon it'll get funnier with repetition, like Beckett, and it does. My sister's calling me from a field, the wind stealing her voice. Her eyes white with fluorescent dread, she has advice for me. Our protagonist holds deep in his bones, where else, the memory of dancing. Feels it in his, among other things, phalanges. A boy I danced with once asked me to touch each of his bones, and I did. I named them for him: mandible, clavicle, sternum, ribs. Sex was more innocent then. Or it wasn't, but only innocence is bone deep, and all that's left of me is bones. All my warm bodies are losing definition. I'm relinquishing them, skin by skin. Dance. Our protagonist is hardly going to pick himself up by his own humerus, tibia, ulna, by his whole own weight, his skull, spine, pelvis, and take himself out. He's hardly going to pass through the coat check. No coat, for one thing, and no pocket for the ticket. He's hardly going to eat fat, hot chips from a bag afterwards, muscles firing. Not a muscle to his name. Not a single microcapillary, no nerve endings. Vinegar steam in a crowd of hot bodies. He'd frighten everyone in the queue for taxis. So there was a picture book that I read as a child a lot, and it also read to my son and later on. which is called Alfie Gets In First by Shirley Hughes. I have no idea if Shirley Hughes made it over here. She's an English children's author. And in this book, Alfie Gets In First, a boy accidentally locks himself in the house while his mother is still on the outside. And I suppose it's supposed to teach children that everything will be fine, that somebody, even if it has to be you, is going to eventually be able to reach the latch and turn it. So this is Alfie Gets In First. Oh, the utopia of this 1980s neighbourhood. So English, so tree-lined, so few cars parked that we can see the people. A man and a dog are turning to watch Alfie, standing in the hallway, imprisoned in safety. The open letterbox, a mouth telling him, everything's going to be okay, Alfie. Everything's going to be okay. The eyes of our friendly neighbours are jeweller's loops, through which our own existence looks opal precious, worthy of love. Hedges dripping with lacquered leaves. The dog's eyes pearls. Mum's eyes turned inwards, she's counting her blessings again. But Alfie looks more like Jean-Pierre Léaud in that last freeze frame of Les 400 Coups than a kid in a suburban picture book. He's just learned from himself what he's about to do, this king of minor disaffections, for whom every invitation triggers an extravaganza of inversion. But Alfie didn't want to put his blanket down. But I want you to be there. Jesus, Alfie, I want to say. Pull yourself together. Join the fucking dots. Do the job you came for, you jerk, you joker. These jags of crying only making you uglier. But Alfie, by which I mean I, isn't listening. He's Jean-Pierre in that unbroken running shot. He's nothing but the sound of his own breathing. All the way from the corner to the front door where he, and you will have seen this coming, gets in first. I wanted on record that nobody warned me. I saw the light through the stained glass window in the door, buttery. I was tired, coming home from somewhere. My shoes were on the wrong feet, and it hurt. I wanted to play house. I wanted to know what it was like to have a great deal of money. I wanted to stay inside for a very long time, not forever. I put the groceries down and they spilled out across the kitchen floor. Annie Rose was pinballing about on her bottom. First, I drew very quickly with a pencil, very freely, very excitedly. First the pictures, then the words. Just a few pages later, everyone's crying, everyone's leaning on the door which will not give, everyone's remembering how easy it used to be to pass through. Try to reach the catch and turn it. I should have been Annie Rose, keeping low to the ground, always cunning, indirect, always moving, never arriving. Annie Rose didn't care. Not Alfie. Never Alfie. Always in a hurry to get in, always slavering to the inside, always inside wanting to the outside, always an after-image of somebody, always a face, always pressed up to the door's stained glass square. This next poem is also quite a longish one, but actually, since I sent it in to be translated, I've cut it down quite a bit, so the translation will be longer than the poem. That's fine.
That's good to know.
Yeah, it's great. So this poem, it goes back to 2020 also, when Britain was in lockdown, and there was a great deal of neglect of children in the British lockdown. Lots of lines of support were cut. And at the time, the Prime Minister's chief advisor, Dominic Cummings, was caught driving across the country with his family on a kind of day trip to a castle. So, breaking his own rules, obviously. So, A press conference was staged for him to explain himself when everyone kind of tuned in on the television or on the radio. I sat out in the garden with the radio because it was incredibly beautiful weather that summer. And we all waited for this guy to arrive and explain himself, and he didn't turn up for the longest time. And all we saw was this empty podium on the television, or silence on the radio, as we waited for him to turn up. So this is portrait of the artist in a suburban garden, listening to the absence of Dominic Cummings, who is late for his own press conference. She watches the poplar hawk moth, unmoving, which crawled from its earthen cell before she woke and cleaves, but cleaves is the wrong word for the keenness of its grip, on the skin of her bare foot, walking in the dewy grass, to the foot of the poplar tree. Sepia, an old photo cliché, wrinkled and crumpled as one of the nuns who taught her May is the month of Mary, bid her gather roses her father and mother had tended. A father and mother whose every tenderness was a masterclass in not passing down pain, not passing down cold, and laid them at Mary's feet, crowned her with blossoms, Queen of the May. But even as she watches the poplar hawk moth, unmoving, in Pois is a child whose name she will keep from writing, if she has any integrity left, any sense of tenderness, and bower that child in the predictable way. Trellis her, crown her with blossoms, bury her in roses, frilled bluebells, strawberry flowers. She dwelt among the untrodden ways. After the last death, hear me and have pity. Dangerous, isn't it, to think of children at a time like this, to let thoughts enter the dull and teeming brain. How would you describe this time? How would you describe how time works in this month of May? How would you describe a sky that is anything but in revolt? How we have stepped inwards, let birds stand for us, let moths, let bats. Let a spore awake, a scar, a wound sear across the sky. Let God come as a snake whose cure is poison. Let masked drivers knock on our doors and photograph the bare feet of children, which should be tenderly watched. That child will die, and a new king be anointed as if anything could continue to mean. The child's sister, a child, will try to save her. But this is not about grief or consolation or even trauma. It does not matter how she feels in a garden. It does not matter how you feel. There was a history of missed appointments. You have failed to turn up. All she sees is the poplar hawk moth, sepia and crumpled, a cluster of dead leaves at the wrong time. I've never disturbed one. I've never seen it flash the bright orange-red basil patch, warning sign on its hindwing. I've never seen it fling itself uselessly at light, this moth, which has no use for flowers. I'll read one more. This one's a short one, you'll be glad to hear. Thank you so much for listening and for making me feel very welcome, and for this evening, which has been so wonderful. This one has a long title also. It's called What If Anything? What if a bomb drops on your head right now? You've seen a deer split open on the road like this. Sorry, I'm going to start again. You've seen a deer split open on the road like this. A madman's flash of evening light against its 10-tined rack, fine teeth unnaturally bared. You take Zelensky's side, tell me, I hate it when people speak to me like that. Beneath your fawn-coloured curls, the bony stubs appear. At your heels, the talons. You ask me, in the World War, what weapons will they use? I don't say, you. I don't say, anything can be a weapon. Monkeys, insects, dolphins, deer. Your friend Jack, who owns 2 drones and makes them grapple in the air. The headset you don to turn yourself cyborg. The time we rode in a self-driving car. The time a robot made you hot chocolate and you thanked it. Thank you so much.